Let's just say, y'all, that the Eagles did everything that they were supposed to and a little bit more when it came to the second half and defeating the Washington football team last night. And we're going to talk all about it coming up. Yeah, thought I'd open up the stream a little bit different and going with my typical video intro and, you know, mix some things up. It's been a minute since I heard it all, obviously. But what's up, everybody? Lindy Endzone in the building for the touchdown, taking the lead for the Philadelphia Eagles, one video at a time. And it seems occasionally, but yeah, I do drop buckets for the Dallas Mavericks. But they're all over the place with COVID in their own right, and they actually won a basketball game without the majority of their best players, THJ, Porzingis, Luka. They all didn't play in their last game. They still ended up winning. But still on to my birds, obviously, and you know, if if I can be if I can be real with y'all for a second. Um, so yeah, again, my timing of content has been yet another week, um, and really, I'm still and I hate to say still because I am here, but I have to say I'm still in a little bit of a personal struggle, um, to the means of trying to um, try and keep it together with my channel to, and I'm trying to gather my words here, but I'm just trying to balance whether I think of this as a hobby or an obligation because I keep it in the back of my mind that there is a responsibility to this if I want to have this channel grow, and sometimes that gets in the way with my overall happiness and where I want to take the channel and take the content and hang out with everybody that I've made friends with on YouTube through my channel, and meeting other content creators, other subscribers that participate in the comments of the chat and whatnot. So I appreciate. Again, I'm never going to not appreciate the support that I have been given up to this point over a year's time, and while I don't necessarily like where my channel is right now, um, I'm still gonna look to grow it as best as I possibly can, even though I haven't been active as I used to be with a lot of things that have changed. And yeah, those aren't excuses because other people go through the same thing go through the same things I do now, and there's people that are even busier than I am with families and education and jobs and tackling. Some people tackle more than I do, but I guess at the end of the day, it's a for me, it's a mentality problem, and I gotta work around it as best as I can. But with that out of the way, appreciate you guys even being here in the first place. After a week's time back on my channel, and while I wasn't doing a live play-by-play, fortunately for me, being out of the market range of watching Eagles games, because this got flexed to a Tuesday. I have a Kindle Fire Stick for a couple of my TVs, and it was live streaming on the Fox channel, so I was able to watch the game. I got to watch the entire thing. It was an awesome moment, and being able to watch my Eagles again out of market, it was a blessing. And at the end of it all, we got a good game to watch, 27-17. the Eagles took care of business at home for only the second time, surprisingly, this season. We're I believe Hurts' record against the division is 2-4, and two is still a strikingly similar number because those are the only amount of wins that the Eagles have when they're playing at home. They've only won twice at home, and it's. I mean, I don't know how else you can, I don't know how else you can say it. That it's not really a great recipe for maintaining home field advantage, and you know, um, the birds did what they were supposed to do, especially for a injury-ridden, COVID-ridden Washington football team. For at one point in time, we thought that they were not going to have Montez Sweat for this game. He was there. Jonathan Allen was there. Um, you know, um, who else? Who else did they not have? Obviously, Chase Young is gone for the year. They ended up losing Landon Collins in that game. He had a questionable return on him. William Jackson ended up going down. So I mean, I don't know. I don't know where I want to place my mindset in this victory because I mean, let's be realistic here. Let's be realistic here, y'all. The Eagles did what they were supposed to do um, against not a really bad football team. Washington is nowhere near as bad as the Giants. So we can get that out of the way. Giants do not have a quarterback in a similar light to the way Washington does not have a quarterback. I mean, for for crying out loud, they had to bring in Garrett Gilbert, who had only 3 days worth of practice with the first string, and that's what we were up against. And despite the terrible first half blunders, despite terrible decision making, despite receivers and tight ends with uh, stone hands, uh, we got some records broken. We got some records broken against the Washington football team. Jalen Hurts now holds the franchise record for most rushing touchdowns in a season, recently held by Michael Vick. Hurts now has 10. He has surpassed him by one. Vick had 9. I think that record was set back in 2010, if my memory serves me correct. Um, the Eagles have also been able to, and I think this is in 7 consecutive games. The Eagles have done something that hasn't been done since I think the '85 Bears with Walter Payton. In what was the stat? Having 135 plus rushing yards in 7 consecutive games. I think they also broke a franchise record for that as well. And and who would have thought to this point that the Eagles would be the number one rushing team in football? Like, can we be real about that for a second? Who would have thought since week one? I don't think anybody was saying that, oh, we're going to be the best rushing team in all of football. No, nobody was saying that. And if you put it this way, think of other respectable teams who are able to run the football like we have been doing as of late. Take the Cleveland Browns, for example. Between Kareem Hunt and that Pro Bowler and Nick Chubb, do the Eagles have a running back, respectively, to the level of Nick Chubb? No, Miles Sanders isn't there. Miles Sanders isn't there. So, so when you add that perspective into the mix for what the Eagles have been able to do Um, I think it's more of a credit to the job that Jeff Stoutland has been able to accomplish with that offensive line. Between that and between the fact that there's still and between the fact that the Eagles are playing through injuries on the offensive line again for the second year in a row. Now, of course, it's nowhere near as bad as 2020, where they had in excess of 13 to 14 different offensive line combinations, but they're still managing to do what they're doing when you have a Nate Herbig out there, when you have a Suo Opeta out there, when you've had to mix in Jack Driscoll at times, and then you try Landon Dickerson when he's ready. I mean, this is going through the loss of Brandon Brooks, going through the loss of Isaac Seumalo, going through a temporary loss of Lane Johnson, and for this team to still be number one in rushing after 14 games. I mean, it's absolutely remarkable. It's unbelievable. It's remarkable. And, you know, y'all, where would we be without Jeff Stoutland right now? Think about that. This guy had the opportunity to go to Alabama, to take a higher role, a higher responsibility at Alabama. And we managed to keep Jeff on this coaching staff doing what he does best, arguably better than anybody in the NFL in terms of offensive line coaching. He's still here. And the productivity he's getting out of the run game, because he is the coordinator of this rushing offense. Yeah, he works in combination with Shane Steichen and Sirianni. But as far as run game responsibilities go, as far as coordinating, that's all about Jeff Stoutland. And that's all about that offensive line. Unbelievable. I mean, the Eagles put up 519 total yards of offense yesterday. 519. And yes, excuse me. At the same time, I don't want to hear about the injuries to Washington as well, because they still had productive defensive linemen on that front that could have been able to blow up those running lanes. And yeah, while you can say they lost Landon Collins, they still had a healthy group of linebackers at the second level that wasn't able to bring guys down like Miles Sanders and Jordan Howard, who Miles Sanders that game was averaging 6.1 yards a carry. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I can't get over how damn good of a job and how well Stoutland has been for this football team in allowing the Eagles to do whatever they want, when they want, on whoever they want in terms of running the football. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But as I have been talking for almost 15 minutes here, I don't want to continue on without acknowledging those in the chat that are currently in the chat or who have came and left. All the supporters of mine. Nidings was just in here. He's got his own stream that he's got going on. Appreciate you stopping by. BPS, what's up, my man? You finally got your 1,000 subscribers back on your channel. Shout out to you and all the hard work you have done up to this point. And while it's unfortunate that we weren't able to do anything today, of course there's always next week. But at the same time, it was a good opening for me to add to some content to my channel. Philly Sports Talk Podcast. Robert, what is up, my man? Jordy was in here as well. Angel 3. Hey, Lindy Legend. EAGLES. The only word the only letters that spell Eagles. That sounded so terrible, but I mean, the only spelling you're going to hear on this channel, and as well as Bird brothers and sisters alike, those are the only letters we're going to be sounding out. Of course, getting an awesome win yesterday. Jordy saying Philly really started off sloppy in the first half, and yeah, they did. I was very irritated about it too. For for those that follow me on Twitter, I was pretty active on there. I was pretty active on Twitter. In the first quarter, it did not look like that Sirianni had his guys ready to play. But as I was able to digest the finish to this game, I realized that you know what, this has happened before. If we go back to 2019, the first game of the year, and that was in 2019, how we were excited with picking up Jordan Howard and Deshaun Jackson coming back, and Miles as a rookie seeing, Miles Sanders as a rookie seeing what he's capable of, and getting that Thunder Lightning combination started, and what the hell were the Eagles doing in the first half? At one point, being down 17-0, and then here comes the second half, and Washington didn't have a chance. So, and it's funny how coincidental these two games were in their own right. But that game in 2019, that team is not running the football as obviously they did not run the football as well as this team is under Sirianni with Jalen Hurts. Angel 3 saying Hurts finally picked up his game in the second half as well, and it's not just Hurts. He also, of course, needed his teammates to pick up their games as well, with it being a collective effort, and um, you know Dallas Goedert being Butterfingers, and just that. There was too many negative tandems early, and it just really disrupted the flow of what the Eagles were looking to do against a really deprived Washington football team that had no business scoring 17 points. But it's not the here nor there anymore, and they picked up the victory. We picked up the victory like we were supposed to, but. Yeah, with Hurts, with the way Hurts improved in the second half, and his teammates really came along with him because he was heating up and he was getting more consistent. Sirianni was able to open the playbook fully. He got some extra things going on in there that we're going to talk about once I open up the lines and hear from you guys as well. But yeah, it was good. It was good just to see a collective effort, and how they were able to bounce back when we felt at times that if this team were to be down to another bad team, that we just didn't have the confidence for them to win. Let's Go Birds is back. Been a minute since I seen you, LGB. Good to see you once more on here again. Sanders isn't there yet to the level of Nick Chubb. Yeah, he's not. Definitely not. See, also saying he's going to get to the Pro Bowl next year, that Sirianni has got the hang of coaching, and that very well may be true. But the Eagles also have to be careful with allowing Sanders to play on the last year of his rookie contract. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure where that is going to end up. They have to be careful. To not pay him early or late. The time's got to be right. Just like that, I still felt the time was right for paying Dallas Goedert, and how Goedert has been playing lately. He's showing to be that guy. He's showing that he's that he's definitely that guy, despite the drops, and just despite issues that he can easily clean up. I mean, when that first drop, I said on Twitter that Ertz catches that pass, and what I feel that Goedert has a bad habit of doing at times is as soon as he turns back, to catch the football, he's turning his head too early and looking upfield. Like you have to establish possession and catching that football first before you make your next move. And too many times he's one step ahead of himself, and just can't allow himself to gather the football and make his next move. So yeah, but of course, I hardly noticed we were missing guys like Sayamalu and Brooks, and again, of course, that's what I was saying. That is the beauty of the value that Jeff Stoutland provides to this football team. And you look at him, and you still look at the Pro Bowl offensive linemen that we still have playing. We're you know it's that veteran aging all over again with how long can we afford to keep these guys on the team. But it's it's kind of hard when they're still playing at a high level. Kelsey at 33, 34 years old is the best center in football. I don't care what anybody says. He still continues to prove it on a weekly basis. I mean, this offensive line would not be where it is right now if not for Jason Kelsey, and that is a cold, hard fact. Kelsey makes a lot of what this line is able to do possible. He makes this line as much of a chemistry fit as Stoutland does. Bringing guys like Jordan Mailata along, and how Jack Driscoll just seems to be getting better and better and better. And if he can only stay on the field, because these injuries are killing him. Making guys like Suo Opeta and Nate Herbig serviceable for a temporary, just for a short period of time. Kelsey has a lot of responsibility being center, and it's. I hope Dickerson ends up turning into a fraction of what Kelsey is, because I think we'd still be okay at the end of the day if that's the case. But it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible, to replace the value and just sheer ability that Jason Kelsey possesses for this offensive line. I don't know how you replace him. I don't even think I don't think you can replace him. I really don't think so. But in due time, maybe Landon's gonna have that chance. And if he can be at least 50% of what Kelsey is, I still feel we'll be okay. Let's see. We call of all time is debatable but possible. Saying about best O-line coach of all time. I mean, he may be the best. He may be the best O-line coach in franchise history. I think that's fair to say, but in all of the NFL, I'm not sure on that. I don't know. There is 8K for Eagles Uncensored. He goes, hope all is well. Happy holidays. Hope you have a great one. Appreciate you too, of course. Yes, sir. Slay and Kelsey made the Pro Bowl. Of course they did. Of course they did. Big play, Slay. Jay Milton, what is going on, man? Another day for me, man. Another day. But of course we're already carrying this into it. We're already carrying this into about 20 minutes, and I've said that I want to hear from you guys as well. So without further ado, we're going to open this up here and get something going. There we go. LGB saying Goddard got snubbed again, and I mean, if we're gonna be real here with Goddard's Pro Bowl chances this year, I felt that earlier in the season Zach Ertz hindered that a bit, and when you look further down the road after Zach's departure, it doesn't seem it doesn't seem that Goddard st- stood out enough as a tight end to garner a Pro Bowl selection. That's just me. I don't. I personally think Goddard didn't stand out enough. But then again, I mean, then again, you had the inconsistency and the philosophy on offense that Sirianni was trying to come up with, and too much reliance on the pass to run ratio, and between all of that mess, there wasn't God, I just at the end of the day, I just don't think Goddard did enough uh, to stand out in means of making the Pro Bowl. LGB says they were slim, but with some of his performances were Pro Bowl worthy. 90% of his performances were Pro Bowl worthy. Yes, I mean yes and no. I would say more. I would say maybe 75% of them. I wouldn't go as high as 90. Uh, yeah, and that goes to what Jordy just got done saying. When Goddard got the ball, he performed. Yeah, but yeah, no, there was too many games where the flow of the offense did not go through Dallas Goddard when it should have, especially when we weren't committed enough to the run. And when you got a tight end of that kind of talent, he has to be the main feature. I know we love Devontae Smith. I know we love Devontae Smith, but Goddard's got to be that guy for what he's been, and this stems back for what he's been able to do between year one and year two, like his rookie to sophomore season, when Ertz was still performing at a decently high level, with him splitting targets and catches of that nature. You know what I mean? But of course, we're gonna get this going, like like I've already talked about, and of course, one of my good friends, Jordy, comes on, the owner of three. Actually, I think you're at four different podcasts now, but good to have you on here again, man. It's been quite a minute. Whether it's the Eagles or seeing the Boston Celtics picking up Joe Johnson.
Yeah.
The conversation for another day. But good to have you. Good to have you on here once again, man. How you doing?
Not bad, all things considered. Thanks for opening the lines. It's been a while. It's definitely been a while, but I'm
Yeah.
glad to share a screen with you again. And when that happens, there's always some good conversation.
Hmm. Absolutely, and we have quite a bit of awesome conversation to be had. After this. Um, after this victory that the Eagles have had, only their second one at home. Um, you know, Granted, it did come from um, a decimated Washington football team, but these the numbers we were able to put up, you really can't ignore when it's 519 yards of total offense. I think the Eagles ran for what was it in total for rushing? 41 carries for 238 yards, and that's including Jalen Hurts. I mean, it's it's just unfathomable when you're talking about those numbers, especially by the means of how I opened up the stream in the first place. And you look on this team, and there's really no Pro Bowl esque type of running backs. But what makes in most cases what makes the running back who he is? It's the offensive line that he's behind to try and open holes and gaps right there at the line of scrimmage for him to go through if he so chooses to take them. And I don't know a better offensive line in the NFL right now that is that is capable of doing this consistently than the Eagles, because the Eagles just, you know, the Eagles are breaking records this year in terms of running the football as of late, and um, nobody's seen this coming whatsoever. I mean, when take me as you were watching this game, take me through the first quarter, through your perspective, and where did you feel at that point where did you feel this game was going to go, and how much your thoughts changed at the end of the game compared to what you seen in the first quarter?
Yeah, so at the beginning of the game through the first quarter, I immediately the thing that stuck out to me was, oh, this team's going to play sloppy again. I really thought this was going to be another game that we're letting the other team in when we really shouldn't, like the Giants game, kind of to an extent. So there was a lot of worry there for everybody. I mean, there's not much in that first quarter that went right for us. And then you saw as the game progressed, the team started to look more and more collected. Sirianni was really getting on his players about certain things. And by the end of that game, it's like the team did a 180. And I can be happy with that. Because between the performances from the running backs, from Hurts, from the tight ends, the receivers, the O line, and the defense, with everything that's gone down this year and some of the things that happened during that game, I'm happy with the performance now. I mean, Mailata, the dude's a pancake factory at this point, and that he even had a couple penalties. He played a great game, but he had a couple iffy penalties here and there. I mean, offensive linemen have that one game here and there. Lane's had that problem once or twice this year. Sam Malo's had it. I want to say somebody else who was filling in had it. I think it was Herbig, who's had it multiple times. But Mailata had one iffy game with penalties, and he even came out and said it's on me about the penalties when he played a great game. So that just tells you all you need to know about this team. And we're one spot out of that wild card, and if this team can step up like they did during the last game, they have a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's that that flag on Mailata was completely unnecessary last night. I mean, the dude should know better. After seeing what he did on that pancake block in week one, to then, you transition from that to a bear hug type of hold. Like, dude, what are you doing? That was completely unnecessary. You didn't need to do that. And then, and yeah, I mean, I heard throughout the game that the hold on Sua Opeta was a phantom call because the D lineman was falling to the ground. He was essentially tripping up, and Sua went to the ground with him. I think if Sua doesn't follow him to the ground, they probably don't throw that. They probably don't throw that flag because they would have noticed. Probably would have thought that he tripped on his own feet. But needless to say, there were some ridiculous kind of calls there, and people were asking for. I think they thought they seen a face mask on Hertz. I think it was the one sack where Opeta had Jonathan Allen wrapped up, and Allen was still able to reach Hertz by going over Opeta as he's getting blocked, and grabbing onto Hertz jersey and bring him to the ground. People thought that there may have been a face mask there. I didn't see it on the live feed, but that could be found through film room and all 22 and whatnot. I didn't see any of that, but I mean, overall, with how they were able to run the ball, it in a sense it leaves you speechless, but in another sense it's like, okay, well, how much credit are we really going to give here, considering the circumstance of not only the reschedule, but how bad of a place the Washington football team was in defensively due to the COVID list and injury. It's like, how much stock can you really put in as to how well the Eagles were able to run the football? And I mean, yeah, there is some value there. Uh, and I don't think we're going to see the true value left in this season until we meet Dallas for the last time in Week 18, because obviously obviously the Giants the Giants aren't obviously the Giants aren't going to stop this. Obviously the Giants aren't going to stop this run game either. So, but other than other than that, it was a hell of a game. Other than that, what else? I mean, we also seen a little bit of the rustiness with Jalen Hurts in the first quarter, and you know, there was a couple of plays. I mean, that I can point out. I didn't like the sack that he took to where he where he fumbled the ball. Your internal clock has to be at that moment in time. Your internal clock has to be going. To where you got to make a move outside of the pocket and try to extend the play. And it ended up collapsing. Hurts has to do a better job with that. And then there was cases where he was just missing some simple reads. But really, at the end of the day, it came down to how well the Birds were able to bounce back from this, and ultimately they did. On the backs of the run game, and you can criticize Jonathan Gannon all you want for the lack of aggressiveness, but they still only gave up 17 points to the Washington football team, and the run defense again held another team to under 100 yards rushing. Washington was only able to run the ball for 63 yards. So really, outside of the first quarter and a little bit of the second, I don't know if there's anything else to really complain about or have concern with. Anything else that you can possibly point out that I didn't see with you watching the game, Jordy?
No, not really. Other than I think the ball needs to be spread around a little bit more between the receivers, the tight ends, and the running backs, because as much as they like to do it at times, there's still more that can be done. I mean, the Bills do it every week. They've
Yeah.
had they've had different guys step up every single week and get big games because they spread the ball around. Cole Beasley had a big one earlier this season. Emmanuel Sanders had a couple. Diggs has had one or two. Gabriel Davis just went off last week. I think Philly can do the same thing if they spread the ball around more. But it's a matter of if.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like it looks like I think the wrong people. I think the wrong people eventually got put on timeout. I do know for a fact Angel 3 is not one of them. I think they ended up getting put on timeout. So I had to let people know in the chat that that's one individual that's not a bot. So just so that doesn't happen again. But let me see here, because there was a couple of statistics. There's a couple of statistics that I needed to bring up here, and really it's just to really it's just to better highlight how well of a football team the Eagles are in terms of running the football. I mean, just just take this into perspective here. Okay, defensively we know the Eagles aren't that good, whether it's rushing or passing. We're but I mean, take of it what you want. But according to Pro Football Reference, the Eagles are 10th in rushing yards allowed. They're seventh in yards per carry, holding teams to 3.9. They are 21st in touchdowns allowed, which isn't the greatest, but I mean, what good does that really tell you when teams aren't scoring a whole lot of points to begin with? But we're also 19th in rush attempts allowed. So I mean, when you think of it that way, the ratio for teams able to run the football isn't very good. So they're really limited to what they're able to do in that fact. But what they can't do in the run game, they know that they may be able to do a little bit better in the pass game. Even though we're still decent in terms of pass defense. I mean, we're 11th in yards allowed. Middle of the pack, touchdown wise, we're 16th. One thing that this team doesn't do a good enough job of, outside of big play Slay, is take the ball away. I mean, the team collectively has nine interceptions. That's only good for 20th in the league. So that's one thing that we can do a little bit better of a job of, and that just goes back to talking about the means of Jonathan Gannon not being aggressive when he should, um, and then he's aggressive against the wrong quarterbacks, if that makes sense. To where look, I mean, come on, let's be real here, Jordy, in saying that Jonathan Gannon was nowhere near as aggressive as he should have been against a quarterback that had only 3 days to prepare for this game. I mean, even when he decided to dial up a blitz, they're not working. Outside of the defensive line's inconsistency with dialing up pressure on a Washington offensive line that has a third stringer at center, they have backups at the guard spot, and these guys still you know can't get to Garrett Gilbert enough. And I mean, defensively something has to give, outside of the positive of them not giving up a lot of points. Dude. I mean, are you in agreement here with the way the defense has been playing?
No, I mean, it goes back to, remember what Fletch said earlier in the year, that some of them feel like they're playing out of position?
Yeah.
I think that's still the case, and Jonathan Ganning being a first year DC, I get it, but still, that needs to be fixed. That, and his timing for blitzes still is not even close to where it should be. And that's what really worries me, because you got to know when to dial up a blitz. If you don't know when to dial up a blitz, well, you're kind of getting screwed over. And that's what he's doing to this defense. But not only that, there's certain guys that's names aren't being called, which is both good and bad, that should start being called a little more. Rodney, Apps was really good in the beginning of the season, but now he's kind of been fizzling out a little. He's been very quiet in recent memory. And when this coaching staff came in, we preached turnovers. We can't get them, and that's the big problem. They preach turnovers, 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 and flexibility with the defense, being able to move between different schemes and move guys around. That would work. That would force turnovers if Gannon could actually do it, but Gannon's not doing it, and that's part of the reason we're not forcing that. And I feel like we're a little predictable at times, which was our downfall in the past few seasons, and still can be our downfall this year.
I mean the hits principle was one of the biggest emphasis that Gannon has leaned on in terms of implementing the system that he wanted to bring to this defense, and we haven't really seen enough of that.
No, not at all. We haven't seen it to the effect that we should be seeing it. I mean, they preached it night and day, so it should be happening.
No, it's. I mean, I don't get it, and it's still being said that people feel Josh Sweat is not that Josh Sweat is still being played out of position. I mean, if I remember correctly, there was one play. There was one play. I think it was a second and long for Washington when our defense was on the field, and if memory serves me right, it looked like Gannon had Josh Sweat dropping back into a coverage, and the pass eventually went to a tight end who was being covered by Marcus Epps, and I think the play still went for a first down. And I'm thinking, what the hell are you doing, Gannon? Sweat's a pass rusher. Why is he dropping back into coverage? I just that blew me away in such a mode of misunderstanding. Like, what were you thinking to do? What were you thinking in that at that moment in time? And as I'm pondering on that, we'll bring in the next one that's going to join the panel here, and another respected Eagles content creator in his own right, BLSG, coming into the fold. What is up, man? Seems we have matching Eagles Christmas hats, as a
Hang on,
matter of
let's move it back a bit. Give me a second.
fact. It looks like it. Yeah, I would have to say so. If the no, actually, no, it's a little bit different.
No, it ain't different. The font is different on the
Yeah, yeah.
Eagles.
Looks a little bit larger than mine. I think mine's a little bit. I think mine's a little bit older. If I
They're pretty closely related, though. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But
Yeah, man, it's been a while since we talked, my guy.
I know, and of course, yeah. As I started the stream here, I got a little bit of a, like a mental lapse of stuff going on with myself, and I'll eventually knock out of it. But I am here, hanging out with, hanging out on the stream here with good friends that I know that I have made through content creation, and for the Eagles fan base. And while we have another content creator in here, and another Eagles fan in his own right, of course. I have to imagine, with you retweeting some of my tweets, PLLSG, that you were basically in agreement to what I was saying, to what we witnessed, especially in the first quarter. So as I asked Jordy in the beginning, I mean, take me through your thoughts of what you witnessed in the first quarter, and you know how satisfied were you in the win after the Eagles bounced back from their rustiness?
I really thought that it definitely improved. The one thing we have to get better at, though, we can't be starting slow like this every game. I mean, if we're going to have a chance at playoffs, our only chance at getting there is winning out. If we want to compete with teams like the Saints or the Vikings to at least take that 7th seed, the only way we do that is by starting early. We can't be starting late. That's unacceptable anymore. That's not acceptable anymore. That's absolutely unacceptable. We got to start early, and our defense has to prevent that offense from reaching the end zone. I don't care which offense it is, whether it's the Giants offense, the Washington offense, or if it's the Cowboys offense. I don't care which offense it is, but you have to prevent them from that end zone. And you guys have to start early, and you have to get on the board first, and you got to play some freaking defense. And what did we do against Washington? We did the exact opposite of that. And so that can't happen going forward, especially if we want a chance at playoffs. So at the end of the day, I'm still satisfied with the win. But that's my only thing about this win. We have to start early instead of starting in the second quarter. Has to start in the first quarter when all these guys get on the field and do their thing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And like I said in the beginning, the Eagles did what they were supposed to do, and I'm not gonna necessarily put a lot of stock into this win, other than being very impressed with the way that we were again able to run the football, and the pass to run ratio being in the favor of running the football it's continuing to be a beautiful thing. And it follows the means of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And of course, like you were saying, and getting off to slow starts, and us not being able, and us not in a position to afford to do this in the playoffs. If we make the playoffs, that's going to ultimately come down to how we finish in this stretch of 3 games and fighting with the Minnesota Vikings.
And the Saints
but
too. And the Saints.
but yeah, the Saints have an outside shot at it.
It was mainly Vikings and Saints that we're competing with, but it's more the Vikings than the Saints right now.
Yeah, for the Saints, it's ultimately going to come down to how far their defense is going to take them, because they don't have a quarterback running that ship right now. But again,
Taysom Hill is probably the starting quarterback, but I think that's it.
Yeah, I mean, then again, if Taysom Hill comes back into his own a little bit with, at times how scary he was looking as like that option type of guy with Drew Brees and whatnot. And I don't know how much stock people put into him at all, but didn't we hear at some point people thought Taysom Hill was a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts? Well, that's not the here. I'm not going to bring it up. That's not the here nor there. But either way, not to get off topic, but in going back to how you were saying, VLSG, with not being able to afford these kind of mistakes, if we're going to be in a playoff game, think about this: 10 of Washington's 17 points came off of turnovers. So in all reality, the Eagles defense only gave up 7 points because our offensive mistakes put the Washington football team in position to put points on the board. Yes, the defense still has a responsibility of preventing that from happening, but when you're putting them in field goal range or in the red zone as their starting spot on offense, that gets to be a little bit more difficult, especially with a rookie play caller as your defensive coordinator. So I mean, yeah, like that rustiness that they started off with, especially with a quarterback that hasn't started a game in 23 days. The team as a whole had 16 days off to prepare, especially for a Washington team that wasn't anywhere near
they were banged
they
up.
should have been. I mean, as much as I'm excited about this win, where is the extra convincing on, how much faith we can put in the Birds to look convincing in the playoffs? I mean, what's your take on that, Jordy?
Yeah, I'm really iffy on this game too, because it gives us a bit of a case, but also at the discount of a bad team. I mean, has this team come a bit of a ways since the beginning of the season? Sure, but at the end of the day, it hasn't. I don't think it's come far enough to where it should. Can this team get in the playoffs? Yes, but can it get far? No. There's not enough. And not only that, there's a lot of question marks going into next year. So some of that we've got to figure out soon, even if we are a playoff team.
Yeah, I mean, it's ultimately going to depend who we get in that wild card spot. I forget who. I forget how it works for the wild card. I think the wild card team.
Wild card is only the first seed gets the bye. The 2 seed would play the 7 seed. The 3 seed would play the 6 seed, and then the 4 seed would play the 5 seed.
Okay, so who does that? I'm trying to think off the top of my head who that would leave in the NFC if the Eagles end up getting the wild card spot.
Well, I think it's Cardinals number 1. I think.
No, I would think Green Bay is the 1 seed right now.
It would be either Green Bay or Arizona, I think.
Yeah, I got more stock in Green Bay than Arizona right now, because Arizona got the brakes beat off them by the Detroit Lions of all teams. Come on.
That was funny, actually. I'm not gonna lie. I'm sure that messed up everybody's pick, because I guarantee everybody went with the Cardinals in that.
Yeah.
Like, who would pick the Lions to win that game? Like, no lie. I mean, Lions shocked the world in that one, like they shocked the world against the Vikings to get their first one. And all the Detroit Lions fans, they celebrate every win at this point like it's the freaking Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah, that also it also leads me into talking about our quarterback. For as rusty and for as confused at times Hurts seemed to have looked in the first quarter to really turn it around and he built a momentum off that disciplinary the type of disciplinary action that Sirianni was instilling in Hurts, like, dude, you gotta snap out of it. Like, let's go. It's we should not be losing to this team right now, and it's like you're holding us back a little bit. Minus drops here and there because Goddard had two pretty bad drops. Let's be real. One of them was definitely a touchdown because there's nothing but grass in front of him, and then the other was just a the other was just a perfect pass from Hurts extending a play, and he had Goddard wide open, and Goddard dropped it again. So I mean, aside from that, for Hurts to have only he was 21 to 26, so he had only five.
I think it was 20 of 26
Uh,
for like 297 yards, a
yeah,
touchdown, and an interception.
no, I'm personally not counting the interception because that's
It should
that's
never
just
happen. Exactly.
no, no.
The
It
interception
should.
should have never happened if it didn't hit off Goddard's heel.
Well, I think that interception doesn't happen. Period. If Goddard catches the ball, you know, but how often do you see that? How often do you see that kind of interception?
Like
You just
the
don't.
refs originally called that incomplete, and then they go back to the replay. Uh, Ron Rivera goes ahead, throws in the challenge flag, and then somehow in the world on the replay they review it and hit off Goddard's heel. I mean, I don't know how an interception like that happens.
Yeah, and and think of it this way: had the referees had the referees not have blown the whistle, I think Washington gets a pick six there because Landon Collins was on his way to the end zone with nobody in front of him, and I think he would have scored on that. So the Eagles caught another break there, and this game would have been closer than it looked, but at this point that's not the here nor there. But I bring up the quarterback and the means of continuing to question his franchise status in a means of we look at where Hertz is to this point, and if you don't count the rushing touchdowns, he's 14 touchdowns to 9 interceptions, and you know while his ratio is still above a one, it's not all that great on this. It's not all that great on the surface, and I also don't think we necessarily had high expectations for him. If I remember correctly, going back to my prediction video for Hertz, I thought I said I had him around 30 to 32 total touchdowns, something like that, like 29 to 30 some total touchdowns. So I'm getting pretty close. I'm getting pretty close in two predictions, as a matter of fact. The team's win total and how Hertz has played up to this point. So, but
I'm getting close to my record prediction, which was 10-7.
yeah, and I only
Only
bring that up
way,
because
only way they keep that is to win out.
yeah, and I just hate we're still in a position in questioning the status of Hertz as a franchise type of quarterback. And while while his rushing ability is great on the surface, I mean there's games where we've already seen where he's been forced to throw the football more than rely on a run game that was either inconsistent or non-existent, or defenses just play spy or contain, and they don't allow him to scramble as much. So I mean, you look at a game like this, and then you look at past games where he wasn't very good in terms of throwing the football, and and of course I'll let you guys pick up on this when I ask the question, but I just like what kind of sustainability are we looking at here in terms of the type of quarterback Hurts is, and where we should start moving forward if we decide to stay with him as a starting quarterback for Philly. Like, besides his development as a passer, what more do we think needs to happen to help him succeed? And I didn't direct this to anybody. I mean, either of you can take this if you got
I mean,
it.
that's what I would do. I would direct
I'll take it.
to take the first one when I would do it.
I'll take it. But the thing about Hurts is he's also got to progress as a runner because, I mean, with Notre Dame, I've watched between Brandon Wimbush and Ian Book and now Jack Cohen develop. I mean, there was Michael Vick with Philly and some other people that were great scramblers. And one thing a lot of them had in common was the instincts. You can teach someone how to scramble, but you can't make them a scrambler in their mind. I mean, Hurts wants to be a scrambler, but I don't necessarily think he has all the instincts to be one. There's times where his pocket presence, he has no idea there's a guy there. And other times he moves, whether it's because he wants to move or he thinks there's a guy there. And sometimes he'll take off prematurely. I mean, a big thing with a scrambler is their instinct. With Book in Notre Dame, I watched him progress between being just a 3-star kid coming in fighting for a job to this kid's leading us to the ACC Conference Championship. And he progressed as a scrambler, but he always had the instincts. Hurts, I don't think necessarily has the instinct, but he can throw on the run. Book could throw on the run, but he was more accurate than a deep ball guy. Hurts follows more the vet category where he's a little bit less accurate, but he can hurl the ball downfield a good 30, 40 yards, which he can learn a thing or two from Vic, but there's a connection there. But Hurts has to show that he can not only have durability because the best, what's the saying? The best ability is availability.
Yeah.
Which he's had a little problem here and there, but he's mostly hit the field. But he's got to show he can stay healthy consistently through multiple seasons, and he's got to show that he can develop as a scrambler alongside a passer. Because if not, I don't know if he's going to last here very much longer.
Yeah, it does feel, between the scrambling and the passing that they go hand in hand, because that's almost a predetermination in his clock where, like, and it's sometimes difficult to figure out like how many of his progressions he's going through before he decides to leave the pocket. I mean, sometimes he just goes through his first read, sometimes he goes through all 3 or 4, or sometimes he just picks out 2, and too many of it, too many of it's premature, and whatever the play call is, it's like it's confusing, it's frustrating, but there was times last night in that game where I'm watching them and I'm like, well, where had like that pass to Greg Ward, or in those instances where he's hitting Dallas Goedert and Goddard's catching it and he's actually hitting him over the middle of the field, and he put a little bit of trust in Jalen Reagor after he makes that check at the line of scrimmage to change the play. Like that's a lot of veteran quarterback type of development, and it's just a shame at times that it hasn't been consistent enough to this point. But ultimately, sometimes it's the trust factor between your play caller and who you're throwing the ball to. But you know, before I keep going in that means it was a double it was a question to both of y'all, so I'll let BLSG go with his response to the previous question, and then we'll move on to the next one. But you remember what it was?
I forget now.
Where are you in terms of as in terms of Hurts to this point as the quarterback, and do we feel it's going to be the right decision to stay with him, or move on and find somebody else to develop? Like, has Hurts done enough for you personally to want to stay with him as the quarterback going into next year, or are you, or do you just want to see somebody else under center?
I mean, it really doesn't matter to me, but still, Jalen Hurts is a young quarterback. He's still trying to learn the playbook. This is just his first full year as a starting quarterback, and honestly, at the end of the day, this is just his first full year. Last year, we literally wasted his career for just 4 full games from 2020, and in 2021, I'm not going to say Jalen Hurts was bad for a first full season guy, but there were some times where he messed up, and there were some times where he's had great moments, and sometimes in terms of how he plays it out, then that really depends on him. I find him to be a little up and down. Sometimes he may have that good game, sometimes he may have that bad game. So honestly, it could go either way. But if you want to try to go in like win now mode, you would probably want to get a veteran quarterback, someone who actually has experience in the league and does have starting job experience, and someone who really knows how to study the playbook and can really display it on the field. So if you want to get in win now mode, get a veteran quarterback, bring him to Philly, and have him start for your team. Because there are probably going to be some good quarterbacks out there in free agency that you can probably pick up, because I'm not sure if I trust anyone in this draft, and we do not want to start another quarterback factory if Howie Roseman does not start drafting another quarterback and start another quarterback factory, which is the last thing that we need. But still, if you want to go in win now mode, get the veteran quarterback and build a little bit around them, and you know what? Get the job done.
Yeah, that brings up another thought in it as well, and I'll probably start with you, Jordy, on this one. Just like just because it's a topic I didn't necessarily think about. What's up, Lucas? Been a minute, man.
Sure,
Good to
Lucas.
see you. Says what's up to everybody. Where where do you personally think, Jordy, the Eagles are in terms of a mode of win now, or like just try and analyze the amount of patience you feel they have with Hurts, with the development of Jalen Hurts, and like within that analysis where the Eagles are right now, sitting at 7-7. They're in a prime type of position to maybe earn a wild card spot into the playoffs, and um, everything considered is like I don't even know. I don't even feel they're in a definitive spot where they can say, well, yeah, we are in win now, or not. I mean, from the beginning of the year, they were saying that they're not necessarily in a rebuild; they're in a retool, and then they're bringing some extra veterans in on 1 year deals, and this and that. But you know, if I know Jeffrey Lurie, he wants to win every single year. So if I just don't know where the patience level is at this time. But knowing where the Eagles are right now and where they could possibly be going into next year, what do you think is going to ultimately happen? Do you think they're going to move on from? Do you think they're going to move on from Hurts with the temptation of multiple first round picks that they have to be able to execute some type of trade to improve at that position if they don't feel Hurts is enough, or do they hold on to Hurts and build through the draft?
So I'm with you on that. That there hasn't for a while been a definitive, are we or are we not, and win now. Howie has never really gotten out of that mentality, whether it's because of him or because of Jeffrey. We'll never know. But going from this year to next year, I don't think we're necessarily in a win now mode, but I don't think we're completely out of it either. Uh, it all depends on how he does in free agency this year and through the draft. I mean, could he start giving vets a couple 1 year contracts again? It's possible. Is he going to do it? I don't know. He's been doing it for the past 4 years now. You be the judge of that, but it all depends on the draft. My ideal scenario is to use 2 first round picks to trade up, grab Kyle Hamilton, a generational safety talent. You can let Rodney Harris walk, and then he can become the leader of your defense. He also can kind of, if you needed to, you could move him to safety potentially. That could work. And then you trade down that last first round pick to maybe a late first, early second, collect some draft capital. There's definitely some talent to be grabbed here in this draft. There's some guys that would be perfect to fit in for linebacker, D-line, maybe even get another running back. Let Boston walk. Anything can happen, but it all depends on what they want to do this year and going into the offseason. And that's the real question, because with Howie, you never know what he's going to do, for better or for worse.
Yeah. Yeah. And to Lucas's point here, he says, I think we still have a shot at the division. Just got to hope for 2 Dallas losses and beat them. We would also have to win out. So the problem with that is statistically, or like technically, based on ultimate record, it gets so detailed between the Eagles and Cowboys on who can ultimately win the division. It's still possible for Philly to win the division, but the detail that goes into it makes it sound a lot more difficult. So what has to happen is that Philly needs to win out. Dallas needs to lose their last 3 games. That puts both teams at 10-7. But because you have a divisional tie, what happens next is that it goes to a category of strength of schedule in which it like categorizes your like the amount of quality wins you had based on your opponents. And at that point in time, I think Dallas would still earn the division that way, but there could be a chance that the Eagles can still take it from them. But you're talking best case scenario for Philly and worst case scenario for the Cowboys. And while the Cowboys have done cowboyish things in the past, I don't know with the way the Cowboys defense has been carrying Dak Prescott, like how tremendous the Cowboys defense has been. I don't know if I see them winning, or I don't think I see them losing all 3 of their games. Even if I'm talking down on my birds, I mean, we got to be real about it, guys, here. That the Dallas defense is going to be our greatest challenge at the end of it all in terms of being able to run the football on Dallas. But I mean, I don't know. I still have to stay confident, because really, when we're on top of our run game, nobody has been able to stop the Philadelphia Eagles. And that's why we're the number 1 team in terms of running the football. and I think going into this year, and we've talked about this before. There's no way in hell people had the Eagles as the best team in the NFL and running the football. I mean, there's people that even thought Dallas and the Giants were going to end up being better because Saquon's coming back healthy, and the Cowboys have Zeke and Tony Pollard, and they're going to use that dynamic over there. And while that hasn't happened for its circumstances, and while the Giants just the Giants couldn't stay healthy. Their quarterback is not dependable. Oh my goodness. there's there's never a loss for there's never a loss for entertainment in the NFC East if we're being real about that. But man, I think there's just too many I think there's just too many scenarios for there's too many scenarios um, that would have to go in the Eagles' favor in order for us to win the division, let alone earn a wild card spot. But best case for us for the wild card is to win out or at least go 2-1 and have the Vikings lose their at least the Vikings would have to be 1-2, and the Eagles would have to be 2-1 for us to. I think for us to lock up that wild card spot because Carolina's out of the race. The Saints may be out of the race. I'm not sure on that one, but still, yeah, that's the best case scenario for the Birds going forward in that regard. So, with us talking about the outside chance of winning the division, as I just described, as it's next to impossible based on next level conditions. Going into these next three games, I'll throw it off. I'll throw it off to you two, and again, Jordy, I'll start with you. What what do you have? What do you have record wise? The Eagles going in their next three games, and with that concluding the regular season, do you have us earning a wild card playoff spot? And B, where does that leave the Birds going forward?
So, with how the Eagles' schedule looks and how the team's looking as of right now, um, I think we win the next 2 of 3 games against the Giants and Washington, then fall to Dallas. Now, with how the playoff race looks for the NFL, I don't. It's tough to predict. It's always tough to predict. And when it comes down to it, we're one out. It's 7-7 right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a big chance we'd squeeze into a playoff spot at 7. I mean, it's never impossible with this team with what they've pulled off this year, and it will never be impossible. But we really need. All right, as I look it over, we really need the Vikings and the Saints to lay some eggs. Because the Vikings have the Rams, Packers, and Bears, which it's likely they fall at least at least two of those games.
Yeah.
And the only worry I've got is the Saints, because they've got the Dolphins, Panthers, Falcons. Dolphins, yeah, I think the Dolphins should win that because the Saints are the Saints, and they're probably going to have Taysom at quarterback at some point during that game. But, I mean, Panthers, they're a bad team. When you have Sam Darnold as your quarterback, you're a bad team. Not many USC quarterbacks work out, okay? There's a reason. And then they've got the Falcons, who have been up and down. Pitts his role's been expanded. He's doing better, but I don't know how that game's going to go. That's a swing game. So can we get in? Definitely. It all depends on how the Saints do, because the Vikings aren't going to win their games. But at the end of the day, I have us going 9-7, 9-8, and just barely squeaking into the playoffs with a first round exit.
Yeah, I think that that seems to be the kind of crystal ball result of where the birds might be, and while we can dive a little bit more into where that would leave the Eagles going forward if they do get or if they do end up getting bounced in that wild card game. As we know, it has happened before. I think the last time Nick Foles was at the helm of quarterback, and I think that wild card game was the one that we dropped to the Saints when they kicked the game winning field goal at the end of the fourth. But I'll now throw this off to BLSG, and you got the same question to answer, and how you feel where the Eagles are going to be in their next three games, who they win or lose to. Do they even have a shot at winning the division? Like, I personally don't think so, but I mean, where do you see the Birds moving forward in these next three games?
Well, here's how I look at it. I mean, here's the thing. In terms of winning this division, if Dallas were to win one more game, they would lock it up because we
Yeah.
can't catch up to them. So now we go over to our last three. We have the Giants on Sunday, Washington after that, and then Dallas. I'm going to say that we beat the Giants, if you checked out my preview earlier before this time. Most of you probably didn't, but definitely go check that out. I said that we would end up being the Giants. I think we come in furious against both the Giants and Washington. I think the Eagles, they know what to do to try to beat Washington, but who knows how much healthier Washington will be without some of their key weapons. The Dallas one is the one that is iffy to me because if Dallas wins one of these next three games, they lock up the division. And the positive part about that is if Dallas were to win the division, they're just going to rest their starters in Week 18 because they don't want anybody getting hurt. They don't want anyone injured before the playoffs. So if Dallas wins the division, it's kind of a positive thing because if they win the division, they rest their starters, and the Eagles have a chance to fight for that wild card spot. So I could see the Dallas game going either way, but it's going to come down to if Dallas wins the division or not. If Dallas wins the division, we're probably in. But if they don't win the division at the time, then we could probably be out because it really depends if they clinch up the division in one of these next two games before they face us in Week 18 at the link.
Yeah, sure. And the only reservation I would have with Dallas resting their starters in the final game is I think the NFC is too tight right now in terms of teams' overall records. I think Green Bay's currently at the top, regardless. But there's a lot of teams. I think there's a good collection of teams that are currently 10-4, especially after the Rams took care of business against the Seahawks yesterday. So, excuse me, that bumps them up to 10-4, which that's where Dallas is currently sitting, and I think that goes for the Arizona Cardinals. And
It goes for the Cardinals, the
isn't Tampa
Buccaneers.
Bay also
It
10-4?
goes to the
So
Buccaneers.
yeah, even if you know, even with Dallas at some point clinching the division, because I don't think that they're dropping. I don't think they're dropping either. I don't know if they're going to drop their game against Washington with how they played against us. Even though Dallas still has Arizona yet to play, so we're going to see how the Cards bounce back eventually. After that loss. At that point, it'd be 2 weeks ago from the Detroit Lions. So we'll see how they bounce back against Dallas and the current next team that Arizona plays, which I can't remember off the top of my head. But with that said, being the NFC is as tight as it is, I don't see Dallas resting anybody in Week 18 because I think they're too I think they're too invested in trying to go for um, in trying to go for that for that bye if with them fighting for the 1 seed. I think they may be too invested in it. So yeah, I mean we will see, but we can only about man we can only worry about our team at this moment in time, especially with Sirianni going down onto the COVID list, and I think LaRaven Clark was another one who hit it. So we can only hope from this moment on that we don't see anybody else get put on the COVID list, and
Sirianni was
yeah,
on.
while it's
Sirianni was on there.
it's
So
still
hopefully he
and
returns for the Sunday matchup against
yeah,
the
I
Giants.
mean, it's going to definitely depend. I don't think it's overall. I don't take this completely negative because with Sirianni being vaccinated, um, all I think the protocol asks for is for you to be symptom free and have two negative tests within 48 hours or so, something like that. So if Sirianni is able to achieve that before Sunday, then he won't really miss a
He'll be
beat
a good.
other than not
He'll be a
being
good
there
to go.
physically to lead the team during practice. And Sirianni may be possibly ready to go for Sunday against the Giants. So yeah, we'll see moving forward. But I guess at this point, we pretty much talked about everything we needed to at this point in time, and of course, things will eventually change as the week progresses. It is only Wednesday, and we still have our matchup previews to do with the upcoming game against the Giants, and I'll probably look into that around I'll probably look into that around Christmas time or so, just to see where both teams are in terms of injuries and COVID related issues. But I guess that'll do it for me. I'm trying to better time my streams so they don't carry over into a unnecessarily long period of time. And of course, it depends on viewer traffic and whatnot. But I appreciate the two of you for hanging out with me after me missing about a week's time and making content for my channel. And I will leave the ending to the two of you to advertise your channels, the latest work that you have put out for people to check out, and any other platforms they can find you on. And take it away, Jordy.
As most of you probably already know, I am Jordy Fire, the host of many podcasts, and I am over there where I share my depression in the games we play, and currently I'm yelling about transfers because multiple have left Notre Dame. Not big-time transfers, but transfers nonetheless. And really, there's some stuff down the pipeline, and hopefully my latest video isn't going to be just that Shane Simon transferred. Hopefully it can become a recurring theme because there's certain people I want to leave Notre Dame.
And of course, I believe you can also find Jordy on Twitter, where he does advertise his multiple podcasts, including the latest one that he has with Papa Sora that I can't think.
The Holy Gator.
The Holy Gator. Okay, so I mean, you got, I think, 4 different podcasts that you work on, whether it's the Common Flock, Fighter from 3, and the Golden Dome, and the amount of coverage that you're producing with all that content, pretty remarkable. So do me a favor and give Jordy Fighter a try with his content and the work that he puts out. It's a lot to carry. It's a huge workload to carry. So shout out to you once again, good friend, for joining me on a comeback live stream and talking about another Eagles victory. And that just leaves you, BLSG, for the
Hey,
advertisement of your channel. And I know you just had a piece drop today, so let everybody know about what you got going on.
yeah, man, it was not just one piece. It was actually 3 pieces that I dropped today on my YouTube channel. You know where to find me, but if you don't, y'all can find me on YouTube, BLSG. The name is right there. Search that in the search bar. Hit that sub button. Tried to hit 300 by the end of the year, but it's looking like it's not going to happen. Even though we're at about like 250 right now, it's still probably not going to happen this year. But it was a good run trying to achieve 300, but it's probably just not going to happen this year. So y'all can find me on YouTube, BLSG. The name's just right there. Just simple and plain, make it easy on you guys. Dropped 3 pieces of content today. One was the fact that Nick Sirianni tested positive. One was the Eagles versus Giants preview. Wanted to get that out today just because of the holidays. And then had the live stream for just to talk about each of these each of the situations with the Giants preview against the Eagles, Sirianni testing positive, and then the Washington game from last night. So I dropped that as well. So definitely appreciate everybody who came through to that. Follow me on Twitter, BLSG20. Give your boy a follow over there, and yeah, we're at that. We got the win on Washington. Let's get the win on the Giants. And as always, man, fly was fought and Merry Christmas.
Of course, it's a Merry Christmas, and just remember at times, and go back and reminisce on the positivity of what 2021 has brought to a lot of us. So let's take care of this. Let's take care of this division, the rest of this division, one game at a time. And I think while a lot of us have us sweeping Washington, we got to take care of New York, and we do have to try and take care of Dallas. But yeah, at the end of the day,
We'll see what we can do.
It's always Fly Eagles Fly for myself and Lindy again for the touchdown, taking the lead for the Birds, one video at a time. And for my co-hosts, on the panel, Jordy and BLSG joining me for this call-in live stream. Thank you to everybody that has come out to give a little bit of a viewing, whether it's 5 seconds or 5 minutes or even 50 minutes. It's appreciated equally the same. So with that, I'm going to get out of here, Bird brothers and sisters. You already know the deal. Fly Eagles Fly, bleed green. Go Mavs, MFFLs. Take care of yourselves, everyone. Merry Christmas once again. Hope y'all get the presents you asked for. Take care of yourselves, everyone. Have a good night, and I will